appears to be. I guess the gimmick here is that I will drink all 3 bottles in the next 2 hours. Is that what we're going to try to do?
I mean, I'm in. That's what I told Wendy, our CP rep. I said,
let's do it.
I'll just pound all 3 of these in 2 hours. We'll really have a great show.
Yeah, I think the sparkling one. There's a the champagne. That would be the mix that I wouldn't want. I mean, there's 2 reds here. There's a cab, and then there's a red blend. And I think the as long as the first I could do the 2 bottles of wine in an hour, and that'd be nothing.
This is compliments of Brownstown Napa Valley. We'll get into it, but we now have a wine club. We have an official wine club.
Well, let's give the people what they want.
I think we've been doing it for at least a year ago. Because remember, Bo got that nice box.
But
I never got a box. I don't remember a box of this.
I think it's still in there. I think it's still in the studio.
There's no box in here.
There was a wooden box at some point.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe
I'm
that
not
Stevie
aware.
took it.
Maybe he did. Took it and ran.
Just going away.
been.
Parting gift.
He just took my wine. Anyway, Brownstown Napa Valley, the official wine-branded wine club of the Cleveland Browns. The program offers fans a unique way to support their team and community through purchases with proceeds supporting the Cleveland Browns Foundation. Club membership options are available to fit various budgets and lifestyle. 2 shipments of 3 or 6 bottles per season delivered in keepsake vintage Browns fire-branded wood wine crate boxes.
Yes,
Members
there was
get
one of those.
So there's a box here. Is this my box, Gibby?
No, Wendy brought this in separate.
I'm just saying there is one. There had that what you just described. That they started this last year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, and we've done this for. And it was a red. I think it was a red, a white, and a champagne in the 3-bottle box, and we had it. It was in the studio. It might be on your rack underneath the sledgehammer. I'm telling you, it was.
Boy,
the Mac Hammer.
There's a lot of things on that rack.
I'm
we
gonna
could do our own
investigate.
podcast on that.
Yeah.
I'm going to investigate it to see what happened, see if Stevie took it. Members get exclusive access to limited releases, library wines, as well as discounted access to their online store. The spring release is happening on April 2nd, which is why we're talking about it. Visit brownstownnap.com for more information. Sign up for the Brownstown Napa Valley Wine Club. I would say that the branding on this is very good. I'm holding a Resolute Reserve Cabernet, Napa Valley 2019. This is a Calistoga, so that's a lovely place. I've spent some time in Calistoga.
Lovely place.
Was engaged.
Great Springs.
Oh, and then another one is the Flats, which is looks like a red blend, which is very
Lovely.
nice. It's a very nice job they do.
Look
on
at the
this
label. Look at the striping.
Oh, the label, the striping is gorgeous. I mean, a nice little landscape of the city there. That's is very nice.
Spectacular.
That's very good. And then, as I mentioned, the Brut Champagne, the Reserve 46, with the color rush uniforms on the labeling there.
That's intense. It's beautiful.
It's the first Friday, so you
nice
can partake.
Packaging. Nice. I mean, the
Packaging's
box.
great. Yeah, it's a big win. Big win. All
Playtime's
I'll have
over.
that. I'll have that
This is
drink
no
by
joke.
the end of the show. That's the operation. That's what we're going to try to get done.
Yep.
How you doing? How's everything on your end of things?
I'm great, brother. I couldn't be
Thriving.
better.
I think we're trying to get Bo to vacation
Kids.
time. I think Bo has put in a lot of hours and a lot of long days and efforts. We've taken our share of vacations, and our boy needs a week to decompress.
Well,
He's gonna get it.
In the great Southwest.
yeah, I need the
He's
Southwest.
gonna get it.
Here's something that came to my attention today. From I guess I'd been, Sherlock Holmesing the clues along the way, but it appears that virtually everyone that I know who has spring break next week has said, we're gonna jump and fly on Wednesday. We're gonna fly on Thursday. We're gonna pull the kids.
About this.
We're gonna pull the kids, and we're not gonna fly Saturday because it's gonna be a mess and everybody knows it. Plus, because Ohio does spring break at like peak spring break, the pricing's outrageous. So I think people said, you know what? We're going to go Wednesday to Wednesday. We're going to do a Thursday to Thursday. And we got a note from the school today saying, hey, stop calling the bus depot and saying your kids aren't going to be at school. You've inundated the answering machine with we don't need a bus today, which leads me to believe that thousands of kids
Everybody
is out. Like the boys headed to school today. I'm like, I don't know who's going to be with you, boys. Could be running on an island there, man. We're the only ones who played by the rules, I think.
And is it a 1-week spring break?
Yeah. Just public school.
Hawken is
public school.
This is outrageous. Take it. It's a 2-week spring break. It started this week, so they're off this week and next week. Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, that's a lot. 2 is a full day. to go.
It's,
the 2 weeks.
that's what I used to get for winter break. That used to be my
Yeah.
winter break when I was a child, was 2 weeks.
It was like
That's
the
spring
Friday
break.
before Christmas through like New Year's Day. And then
Same
you went
as-
back January 2nd.
Public school kids, they do the same. You get the 2 weeks at Christmas, and then you get the 1 week at at Easter. That's the way it works.
Yeah.
And then for my son, he also had the week before spring break, they did a thing called intensives where you could kind of like learn about some specialized thing. There were some various offerings, but it wasn't even like a real school week. He did the music biz, and so
There
he
you
got to
go.
go like to the rock hall and perform and all kinds of stuff. Like, so it's he's thriving.
Yeah, that's good.
Children are thriving.
They are. Yeah. The kids where I'm from are too, because none of them are in school today. There's like 6
You know
kids
why
in
that's
school.
good though?
Why?
I believe the children are our future.
You think?
Yeah, teach them well.
Well,
and
let
Give
them
them
let
the
them
next
lead
one.
the way.
Yeah,
Let them lead the way.
Yeah, we're on the same
show them all the beauty they possess.
There was a
inside.
1987 NBA
them a
All-Star
sense
game vignette that was a vignette of little kids playing, and because it was Dr. J's last All-Star game, set to that, set to
beautiful.
that song. Yeah, and
Feels beautiful to
and
me.
showed all of that stuff. So, yeah, it's anyway. So that's where you are. Yeah, I'm ready. I mean, it's been a slog, man. And then this, the weather's not been great. Here, I got news for you though. Like, we're going to Southern California, going to the desert. The highs next week are like 73. That's
Perfect.
That's never happened. It's always been 85. It's always between 85
because
and 90.
there's like another bomb cyclone. Does San
No, they get-
Francisco still exist?
No, like they're getting rain. Actually, so they're supposed to do pro day at USC yesterday, and their outdoor turf was underwater at USC. Like, that's Compton, man. You all right there? Yeah, you're
I'm
all right.
all right. Yeah. For a second, it sounded like
But
I was
like
gone.
they're
But then I was
having like
back.
record rain and snow. Like, finally, apparently, all of the drought issues with California are gone because of what's happened in the last month.
So
It's insane.
my
California.
boots on the ground. 77-mile-an-hour winds in SF yesterday. 45 to 50 here. Crazy rain.
Yeah.
Pedro checking in from the Pedro chopper.
I don't think you want the chopper in the air at 77 miles per hour.
Probably not.
No, you definitely don't.
Get
So,
on
like,
the ground,
yeah.
Pedro.
I'm looking here.
Like,
So
I saw
LA
a radar picture,
Yeah.
and it looked like a hurricane. There was an eye wall
Yeah.
today that was coming on shore.
Yeah, they got bombed. I mean,
Literally.
snow, rain. I mean, it's really pretty crazy.
So, wow, I'm looking even in LA, ton of rain, and it doesn't get above the next 2 weeks in LA, nothing above 65 degrees.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, the beach will
That's
be
wild.
high 50s. So if
Yeah.
you're headed to the beach area, that's going to be high 50s. In
Not
LA,
ideal.
at the end of March, that
That's
should be
wild.
75 is what that should be, that time of
Yeah.
year.
Sure
so we've
should
never
be.
seen, I mean, like I said, this is the desert, and it's 73. I think the highest day middle of next week is like a 73, 74. Now, it's 70 and sunny every day, so it's perfect. But it's not like, pool weather.
Let's get crazy. and-
Although I'm sure our kids will. They'll jump in and do all of that. But just from the standpoint of what's normal out there, it's about 20 degrees less than what it normally is. Does this extend all the way to like Phoenix? Like Scottsdale and all that? Or is this just a Southern California thing, I wonder?
I mean,
Let's see.
when I was in Nevada last week, they said they had experienced a lot of the same. It's tons of flash flooding. Like,
Yeah.
they were rescuing people by helicopter when we got there on Tuesday.
Well, in those
Oh,
type
yeah.
of places, like in, like the desert, like Palm Springs area where we're going, and then Vegas and even Phoenix, have you guys ever been there when it does decide to rain? Like the streets
I got
are
a taste
rivers.
of it last week. It was pretty crazy.
Yeah, oh,
It's
yeah,
crazy.
flash flooding.
The streets
Flash
become
flooding.
rivers is what happens because it can't absorb it quick enough.
All right, so today in Scottsdale, it is 61 degrees with
See.
100% precipitation with an area flood watch for the next 24 hours.
That's
there you go.
See, that's impossible. That
It's
never
tapering
happens.
out. It's going to be gone by Thursday, and then they have nothing, and they're back into the mid to high 70s by next Tuesday. But still, I
That's
mean,
still chilly for
61
them.
today, 68, 67, 71. Yeah,
We were there on spring break 3 or 4 years ago, and then drove over to the desert, and it was, it was in the 80s this time of year.
Yeah.
was pretty normal. So, Yeah, be safe out there traveling, and God bless anybody with the flights. I haven't heard anything negative yet, but I'm sure they're just waiting till Saturday when I fly at 5:30 in the morning is my guess.
What's the weather here flying out Saturday?
It's fine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
it's okay.
it's fine.
We don't have
Yeah.
like a
I mean, you never know. I mean,
it was snowing Sunday and it wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, we had two choices for flights. You're either doing that and you're getting in at like 11 o'clock in the morning out
And
there,
having a day.
and you
Yep.
have like a day, but you're exhausted, or you could roll the dice and fly at like 2 o'clock and get in at like 11 o'clock out there, and you don't have the day, and you're running the risk of one flight somewhere getting off schedule and then everything screwed up.
Then you're gone. You miss an entire
you're missing,
day. You're not even getting
and you
there
could
the
miss
following
more.
day.
So as much as it sucks, like first flight out feels like you have the
That's what
best
you
shot.
gotta do. That's what you got to do.
Feels like you have the best shot to survive. So and even thrive.
It's
We'll
all
see.
about. It's not even you getting to Dallas, so much as that Dallas flight happening.
Well,
The Dallas flight.
the other thing, yeah.
Don't speak any evil.
I think,
Gibby.
but I mean,
not.
we're in Dallas at like 7:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's, it's not 11.
No.
There shouldn't be too much that's had a chance to get off the rails by 7:30 in the morning. You should be. The one that's the bigger problem is going to be on the way back, I think, knocking on plexiglass. I think it'll be the way back because that's like an 11 o'clock get in Saturday night situation. Because you don't want to fly at 6 o'clock California time.
No.
So that's what that is. That's where you're gonna lose it. And the problem is when you go west, unlike last year, you will recall I had to drive home from Newark on the way
I
back from
remember.
the Bahamas. That was a lot of fun. That operation was one where it was possible. I don't believe that I can drive from Dallas. I think
No.
that's like 17 hours.
Yeah,
so
no.
that's
You
probably.
could. It's not ideal.
I mean, that's
Not with
that's
three
three humans in a body bag. That's
You're
I
not
mean-
getting home any faster than waiting for the flights the next day. I mean, yeah, no way.
The problem, though, is this time of year, they aren't the next day. They're 3 days from now, especially with 5 people. You're not getting on a flight anytime soon. So I probably would try to drive if that's what happened. It's probably how it would have to go, which would be just a joy, an absolute joy. Today is Pro Day. You're going to get a bunch of these this week. So you got Alabama tomorrow. Ohio State's is today. This from Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl. NFL teams with the most representation, Ohio State's Pro Day. Carolina, 14 of them, including owner and owner's wife. Every luminary that is a part of the Carolina Panthers organization is in Columbus. They were in Columbus last night. They actually took C.J. Stroud out to dinner, and then he is performing his pro day today. The Giants had 9 people there. Seahawks and Saints with 8 apiece. Titans 7, Jags 6. We had 5. There were 2 teams not represented. I couldn't figure out which 2 they were, but 2 of them were not represented. I think what everyone is most curious about, C.J. Stroud's going to throw very well. I don't think he's threw very well last year when he wasn't even drafted.
Of course.
So he's throwing against air, and he's throwing against throwing 2 NFL receivers in Jackson Smith and Jigba and Marvin Harrison Jr., who's running routes as well. My hunch is if I had to bet, like, what's the most buzz coming out of this thing, my guess it would be for Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, and I think, outside of C.J. Stroud, sure, Jackson Smith and Jigba ran, again, a 4.53 are the reports that they're having right now. I mean, the guy knows how to play. He knows how to get open. I wouldn't worry about that time so much. His acceleration is in and out of the breaks. I think he goes in the first round. I'm curious. That's a lot of representation for the Browns, but then again, for the Browns, it's a 90-minute drive.
I remember there was a time when your boy, Mr. Jackson Hugh, did not go to down to Columbus, and I thought, feels like that's an easy little trip down there. Go down there and check it out. See, I mean, they tend to put some kids into the league. So yeah, I mean, it's an easy trip. Plus, you got the crew are down there, so you get a little bit of you double up a little bit, perhaps for some luminaries where they can visit the soccer team of record and then also do the Ohio State Pro Day as well. Yeah, I'm with you on Jackson Smith and Jigba. Cooper Kupp ran a 4.61. He doesn't have a problem getting open. I mean, he's in and out of breaks great.
Crown.
Yeah, the one difference between I was having this conversation this morning about Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they're like, well, why is it being held against him not playing and it wasn't held against Jamar Chase? And the answer to it, very simply, I don't think it's any more complicated than this. In Jamar Chase's last year at LSU, he was the most dynamic wide receiver in college football on the outside. In Jackson Smith and Jigba's last full season at Ohio State, he ran in the slot with Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave on the outside. So you didn't have that weapon that you had with Chase in Smith and Jigba's last year. Now, he's going to be on the outside this year, and he's not gotten hurt. He played outside in the Rose Bowl where he had 300 yards receiving. So there are a couple of examples of that, but that's the difference, is that you had a full year of Chase on the outside blowing by SEC corners, and that's what allowed for people to know exactly what he was, where there still are some questions with Smith and Jigba. I wouldn't have any, but I could see how some would. Lots of potential guys for us, too. I mean, I think about if we go outside, would Zach Harrison fall to 42? He's a former 5-star kid out of Powell.
I believe in my latest mock draft I had that.
Yeah, there you go. That makes me believe there's no chance it's going to happen.
He called James Hudson, folks. Don't forget.
He did. That's true. But Harrison's a guy who has a lot of the things they look for in terms of he'll have all the measurables. He doesn't have the sack numbers. He's probably a little bit more like Clowney. Pretty good on the pressures front. Big physical kid who's got all of the measurable tool stuff you'd want. And he could fall. He got hurt at the combine, so wasn't able to do some of the things. I think it was a hamstring. But I saw him jumping and stuff today. He's a guy who maybe, if he fell to 42, if he still had 42, that would be someone of interest.
Yeah, it would be. I think that's what we've said all along. Edge, pass rushing defensive tackle, or wide receiver at 42 seem like the only real options, or a trade to acquire a player or a trade back to acquire more assets. But that it feels like that's where it's going to be. And Ohio State's got wide receivers and edges, or a wide receiver and an edge that certainly could be of intrigue at that spot, although it feels unlikely that either of them would be available at 42.
I think no chance on Smith and Jigba. Harrison could be. Maybe. That'd be interesting to see what happens. They have a couple of safety kids that, could be some late-round guys. They'll have 8-9 guys drafted like they typically do, and that's why the league is there. The one for tomorrow will be down in Tuscaloosa in Alabama, so you have that to look forward to as these pro days are starting to amp up a little bit. Pro days versus combine workouts. We asked Andrew Berry at the combine, how much do you look at these guys in terms of what they do at the combine in terms of their physical stuff, and what did he put at 5%?
Yeah, and a lot of that has to do with the medical is the biggest portion of that. He said for guys that don't have medical or off-field issues, it's like 2%.
Yeah, I would imagine that this would be similar, like the pro day thing, right?
Sure.
That'd be my guess.
Most of the to me, it's even less. This is a fully scripted environment that you know exactly what you're going to be doing and how it's going to go. To me, these things shouldn't be looked at as how can they enhance somebody's draft stock. Now, if there's a question, if somebody didn't run earlier, now you get to see them run, whatever. But for the most part, it feels like these things could only be viewed as negatives, right? Like if you go out there and just have a bomb performance because of the pressure, or you show up out of shape, to me, those are you're failing a pretty remedial test.
It's a Jalen Carter thing, right?
Right, exactly. That's more of you could come out of here with concerns. You shouldn't get so excited because you see a guy throw the ball great on air or run great routes on air. I mean, that shouldn't get people too excited.
And yet it feels like 2 pro day performances, Zach Wilson's reverse pivot throw across his body, had a lot to do with him going high to the Jets. I don't know how much it did or not, but the perception was that the way he threw.
But wasn't it also though at the combine that he was going to the Jets, which would have been before his pro day?
Yeah. I have a hard time remembering. So what draft would that have been? The Wilson draft?
2 years ago.
2020.
21.
2021.
Yeah.
Were we
there?
I'm trying to remember. Were we there in 2021? No, we weren't, buddy.
No.
We weren't. That's why there was no. No, it was his pro day because 20 was the last one we were at, and then COVID hit.
Correct. 21 was all virtual.
It was all virtual. There was no combine.
Yep, that's right.
So it was his pro day, that reverse pivot throw across his body, 70 yards downfield, had a lot of juice for him. And then the other one was Johnny.
Which is an absurd thing to say, by the way. Of
course, it's stupid.
I mean, Malik Willis threw the ball at the combine and was throwing it like 900 yards.
Yeah,
and he
could
not function in the NFL.
No. And the same thing happened with John Football. Remember, he did it in a helmet and pads. His pro day.
At least it lended a little more like credence. Like, okay, at least while he's throwing on air, at least he's throwing it like in a uniform.
Well, the whole reason they did that is to make him look bigger than he was.
Yeah.
That's the whole reason they put him in the pads and the helmet.
Like there
to
was
make him look bigger.
There was a former president of the United States at that workout.
Jeez. Craziness.
Yeah.
Too soon.
Yeah.
Like, it was a circus.
Yeah, really was. All right. Normally I say lots to get to. There's not a whole lot going on. I'll just be very candid with you.
Quiet.
It's very quiet on the NFL front. There's some pro day stuff. Free agency's dried up. I remember at the combine there was some discussion that they thought there'd be a little bit of a burst right away, and then a lot of teams would kind of hang back. And it feels like that's what's happening. We're at a hang back part of it. I have a question for both of you that I will get to coming up. We will go around the league. Ben Roethlisberger with an interesting claim. We will get to that. Play a little thing or not a thing. You have that to look forward to, which is very, very nice.
Some luminaries in hour 2. 2:15.
Oh, there you go. Obo's in.
Obo debut.
Let's
Obo
go.
Okoronkwo going to join us here at 2:15 on the program. So you have that to look forward to, which is very, very nice. We're off and running on a First Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. There's a new way to cheer on your Cleveland Browns to help your favorite four-legged companion. Barking Backers presented by Milk Bones, the Browns' newest club for pet parents worldwide. Sign up today at barkingbackers.com. Barking Backers, the fan club for dogs, as we go around the NFL. Which do you think will be done first? We'll have resolution first. Rodgers or Lamar?
Boy, that's a tough,
Lamar. Lamar.
not tough for Zagura.
Give me your
It is a
reason
tough
why.
one.
I want to see if it's the same answer I gave. Give me your reason why.
I just think that there is a definitive deadline for the Rodgers deal that's by this year's draft, because they're going to want the picks to help them this year, I would imagine, in Green Bay. Even though they're going to say with the leverage that, no, we don't need to do it at any time. We can hold it all the way till September. It feels like that will force that deal to get done by that point. And then with Lamar, I just feel like it's over already. I feel like it's toast.
So where are you, Gibby? Are you Rodgers or Lamar? Who gets done first?
I would say Lamar first, because right now my confidence level is not very high that this Rodgers thing gets done. I feel like it should. There's 50 million reasons why Green Bay should get it done, but I have no – this is slogging along, and I don't know why it's slogging along.
Spite.
And the Packers want their price.
Yeah.
I
think
they should get it.
Well, they're going to get a portion of it. I went Jackson too, and the reason I went Lamar was I just think that as an organization, and you guys saw the story about how Lamar had a representative reach out to him who was not certified as an agent.
Yeah.
So, it just goes back to, and again, this is from 30,000 feet, it appears to me that if he just had great representation, somebody like the agent of the stars, those type of people, you got somebody like that, they're not in this spot. None of this.
It's over already.
It's done. One resolution. Either he's locked in long term and he's happy to be a Raven for life, or he's gone. It's done so quietly and it's gone. So I think that's led to a lot of what's happened on the Jackson. But I do think that the Ravens they're just such a well-run organization that they will have it sorted out by the draft. I just don't think they're going to not – I don't think they're going to go into the draft not knowing who's quarterbacking them. The Packers aren't under a similar pressure. I think they know Jordan Love's quarterbacking him. It's either Jordan Love regardless. The Jets don't know if it's Rodgers regardless. But the Packers aren't under the same type of constraint. They could have the number one. If they get a 1 for Rodgers, they could have it be in next year's draft.
Yeah.
They could. My guess is they would want it now.
Agreed.
Right?
But I don't think it's as important as the Ravens have a roster that feels like they want to contend. Are they really going to go into the draft not knowing who's quarterbacking them?
No.
The Packers know who's quarterbacking them, regardless.
Right, and I just think Lamar. I think everybody wants that to be resolved as soon as it needs to be, for the reasons that you made. I feel like in my answer I gave both sides of it, but I'm with you. I mean, that's what I think. I think that one will be done much sooner rather than later, because I think at some point it's either going to be, look, I'm not playing for you, so what are we doing here? Or somebody's going to come with an offer and say, I got to get set up for my season going into this draft. What am I doing? You know what I mean? I think everybody involved, wherever he's playing, the team that he's the quarterback of needs to know that. Their spite is a thing, but in this case, the only leverage Lamar Jackson possibly has is to forego $30 million, which doesn't feel like a whole lot of leverage.
If I'm the Packers, maybe you don't think this draft is great for what you need. And that's why we're happy to stockpile stuff for the year after and the year after, with the hope that Rodgers flakes on the Jets a year from now. The Jets suck, and you get a higher draft pick.
Here's the thing. You're also saying next year's quarterback class is better, right? So two things. Number one, maybe you say, all right, you'll give up Aaron Rodgers and you want all your assets in the future, so you wait till after the draft, right? The Jets probably would be more into that, and you, for the Packers, you're kind of saying either Jordan Love's going to end up being amazing, or we're tanking to get a high first-round pick, and we're going to have 2 of them now that we can use to maneuver around with.
I have news, and it's good news involving your Cleveland Browns.
Go, Gibby, go.
From Adam Schefter, Browns free agent linebacker Anthony Walker, who visited this week with the Commanders, has agreed to return to Cleveland on a 1-year contract per sources.
Good. That's great.
Love it. Let's go.
Yeah. We I think we did a pretty good job on the show this season of articulating and illustrating his importance, not only to the overall defense, but to the young linebackers who signed up around him. So, this is about as good news as you're going to find.
First of all, I love that. Now, here's the other thing that I don't quite understand is we've got – let me just think off the top of my head here.
Do you need me to pull up a depth chart?
Anthony Walker Jr. We have our top 4 now all back from a year ago, under contract. And Anthony Fields. And Tony Fields, I'm sorry. So that's 5 linebackers, right? Phillips, Taki, Owusu-Koramoah, Anthony Walker, and Fields. We've signed, if I'm not mistaken, have we signed 3 other linebackers?
We signed
At least
one
2.
yesterday.
We signed one yesterday who had
Matthew
been
Adams.
with
Signed
who had been with the
yesterday.
Bears and the Colts when Bubba Ventrone was there. We signed Kunashik.
Yep. There's a Story Jackson on this. No idea.
So that's already a lot
we
of
have 7 linebackers right now.
I guess that's not that crazy for 6 spots and your health and all of those things that you're going through. But you have 7. Does that include the AWOC?
No, 8 counting AWOC. Owusu-Koramoah, Kunasik, Phillips, Adams, the Story Jackson, Tony Fields, Sione Taki, AWOC. But I don't know when Taki's going to be.
When he's going to be
I hope
ready.
that Taki's
Right.
able to be ready right away, but I feel like that's going to take a little bit more time.
Sure.
I think it's one of those things where it really doesn't matter who you signed or how many you have. This guy's going to be one of the dudes. So
Yeah.
I would certainly hope so.
we can sort out the rest of it in camp.
Yeah.
But this guy starts next to JOK, and then that's where you go from there.
That would be my assumption as well, and I'm glad he is back. And I know I can tell you, I talked to him numerous times this offseason. He was always here rehabbing, trying to get his body ready for a season to come back from that injury, and this is where he wanted to be. So I'm very glad that it worked out. I think we're all just kind of waiting on the wide receiver news. It's like, okay, we signed 8,000 linebackers. What about what's happening at wide receiver? Marquise Goodwin had a 2-day visit that left without a deal being done. I know that McCole Hardman is still in the mix.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's this Jerry Jeudy trade. So there's so much still to be worked out there. But you would think that at this point, I mean, we've made so many moves this offseason. We really have made a lot, and a lot of it's been retaining our own guys, but it's been heavily defensive focused. Heavily defensive focused.
Yeah. Well, here's the other thing, though. New coordinator. Here are
Yep.
things that I want that we
Yep.
don't have. We got to go get these things for me to be able to have the success I want. So
And new special teams coordinator. And I think that's why Matthew Adams is here. We signed that corner. I wasn't a linebacker, but we signed a corner who's a special teams guy from Atlanta. So there's been a lot of movement on that special teams. But when you think about it, that's your 6th linebacker. Mike Ford, that's your 5th, 6th corner. So we're already kind of fleshing out what a 53 could look like on this football team, and there's still going to be some competition for some other spots. There's going to be competition who familiar names. Do they make this team at the defensive tackle spot? Jordan Elliott, Tommy Togiai, do they make this football team? Those are questions that will have to be answered. Linebacker, there's going to be a name that we know that does not make this football team. I mean, that's just obvious.
yeah, it's a fact.
From the numbers right there. So it's an interesting situation, but you're pretty set on that side of the ball, with the exception of do you feel good enough in that edge room? Is there somebody you'd like to draft to get in that defensive tackle room that you like better than your current guys? And then the rest would be, we've got 3 tight ends right now. Is Jerome Ford ready to take the reins as the number 2 running back? We sorted out backup quarterback with bringing Dobbs back. Receiver is really the question. Maybe some depth at guard, a 4th tackle since you've got your top 3. There's not a whole lot of holes necessarily going into the rest of free agency and the draft. In terms of, you could roll out a 53-man roster right now and feel pretty good about it.
Yeah. That's nice. It makes me happy to see that deal done and to see him back.
Me too.
And I think it's going to make if he plays last year a full year, the defense is different. You can't argue anything other than that. Based on what he was doing. Ben Roethlisberger with an interesting claim. He claimed that he had discussions with the Niners last season on 105.9 Mark Madden. He says they were, I think, reaching out maybe just to gauge my interest. I had discussions. I'd be lying if I say I didn't say there was a small part of me that was intrigued. I could still do it and prove to people that I could still play. At the end of the day, I just can't see myself in anything other than black and gold. Do you buy that?
Well, it could have been red and gold. I do think Kyle probably was thinking, hey, we have a team that can go to the Super Bowl, and if Brock Purdy had had a couple of ugly games, that, yeah, maybe they would have brought him in. Roethlisberger understands how to read defenses, and what he became at the end of his career was a kind of see it, one read, get the ball out, quick quarterback because he didn't have that cannon anymore, and that would have worked just fine in Kyle Shanahan's offense.
Yeah, certainly
it's not
would
like
have.
Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo have cannon, so yeah, that actually does make a lot of sense to me, and it would still make a lot of sense to me if they keep him in the thought process for 2023. To be honest with you,
yeah. From the NFL Network, the Falcons are playing host to Calais Campbell this week, recently released by the Ravens, who have kept the door open for his return. The 15-year vet met in Atlanta. He's been around 15 years, I guess. Yeah, makes
unbelievable.
Sense. Yeah.
Such a good player, massive human, great guy on and off the field. I think that his loss is a real loss for the Baltimore Ravens in the sense that he kind of was in many ways a leader of that football team and that organization. And, a lot of people, it feels like they're interested in going to Atlanta. What's their ceiling? I mean, I guess they could win that division, but it certainly doesn't seem like they're quite a loaded squad at the moment.
I feel like they should be going on after someone else on the Ravens.
Maybe they will.
Right. Well, maybe they will.
Maybe they will.
And maybe part of their thing there with him is, hey, what do you know? What can you tell us about Lamar? And it would be some package. Obviously, it would involve Desmond Ridder would be my guess. If it was a sign-and-trade type of a situation for the Ravens, if they liked him. Because, remember, the Falcons have Ridder, and then they signed Heineke. Now, none of that would preclude them if they decided, hey, we want Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
But it does feel like that would be a good – if he ends up anywhere in the NFC South, they're the immediate favorite. And a playoff lock, pretty much.
Yeah, it feels like it. I mean, New Orleans with Carr, but yeah, it's that would be they would be the front runner with Lamar in either. Well, but it's the only place is Atlanta.
It's Atlanta or Carolina, right?
Because Carolina's picking number
Carolina
one.
Takes Stroud. Yep.
Yeah, so they're picking one. So Atlanta's really the only spot. That's the other thing for Lamar. It's like, who are the dance partners? Is it Miami? Is it Atlanta? Is there somebody? Those two are mentioned most often. Indy. Is there somebody that we're missing that potentially could be? But those are the ones that you hear most from on that front. Do you guys remember when Martin Short used to do the character Jiminy Glick? Do you remember this? So I had never seen this. It just popped up on my timeline. I have no idea why. It's one of the For You things. It's Jiminy Glick interviewing Larry David.
What?
Now, I can't hear any of it, but I'm just looking at the facial expressions, and it feels like something I can't believe I haven't seen.
I'm stunned by it.
Is it new? I don't know. I don't think it's new. Maybe it is. This feels like I could hardly even concentrate.
We'll take a break.
I'm just looking at the laughing. Yeah. We'll do a little thing or not a thing up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Be part of one of the most passionate fan bases in the National Football League. Join the Browns season ticket member waitlist today. Your best chance of securing tickets for all home games in future seasons. Don't miss out. Go to clevelandbrowns.com/tickets or call 440-891-5050 to reserve your spot today. Time for a little thing or not a thing. Hello, Gibby.
Hi, boys.
Give it.
Paulus, give me a little traveling music under this. Maybe you're playing it and I just can't hear it because the board's not wired right. Totally possible here. Little thing or not a thing on a Wednesday, otherwise known as a First Friday.
That's right, Gibby.
Working our way toward a legit Friday. Next week, that's like getaway week with the two of you.
Yeah.
Zigger, you'll be here for a few.
Yeah,
That's right.
that's right.
Well-deserved sabbatical before
May never
things
return.
get crazy. Thing or not a thing, I found a couple
That would be an
What'd you say?
injustice. Nothing. Ignore him.
What did you say?
Nothing.
Ignore
You're
him.
safe. You're safe.
All right. As long as it's
Don't-
not something
don't.
I have to dump.
No,
By
you
the
don't
way,
have to dump it.
Thing or not a thing. Thing, Anthony Walker Jr. fired up to come back. Source, Anthony Walker Jr.
Let's go. Yeah, it was. Anytime, it was just so painfully obvious. If you just watched a little tape and paid attention, the difference when he was there
Oh
and when
my
he wasn't.
God.
Yeah, it was enormous.
Makes
It
all the
was.
sense in the world. Glad he's back. Let's see. Thing or not a thing. I've got a couple different topics for you all today. Bishop, we'll start with you since
Sure.
this is birthed from your loins.
All right.
Matchmaking a few of the remaining top free agents. Lamar Jackson to the Lions. Thing or not a thing?
Well, what would that look like for? That would have to be one of those sign and trades.
Correct.
So you'd have to do. Like what does that look like? Is that Goff to Baltimore? I don't know. I'm going to say not a thing because I think Detroit really likes what they have, and I think that they probably think Goff can be at the very least what Cousins was in Minnesota, and that's plenty good enough to win the NFC.
Yeah, Jared Goff led them into Green Bay in a playoff game, basically, for the Packers and beat Aaron Rodgers and played well last year. I think it is not a thing. I agree with you. I think they like what they have. I think they like the way that everybody's rowing in the same direction. Now, conversely, if they were to sign him to an offer sheet that was not to be matched by the Ravens, now you'd have to do something with Goff on the other end, and I don't know what his contract situation is, but let's just play theoreticals right now. They have an extra first-round pick.
Correct. I think that's why I
So-
came up with them.
So I just think they like what they're doing. I think that, you don't have Jamison Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown and kind of what they've assembled there. I think that they do like the way that Goff throws the football, especially indoors. You're in a division now that's got, multiple indoor games. He proved he could win in January in Lambeau. I think they're quite content with what they have. I think that Jared Goff is probably valued as highly inside that building as he may be anywhere else.
Thing or not a thing, number 2. Ezekiel Elliott to the Chargers. Zagura, you lead us off here on thing or not a thing.
Who cares? He's done. He's toast. Who cares?
Wow.
Not a thing, then, you're saying.
No, not a thing. He will not give them what, I'll tell you what, if that is a thing, if that ends up being a real thing, no way, shape, or form does he give them what Austin Eckler's given them. None.
No. Totally
Zero.
different. Totally different. He was banged up last year for sure. He's been banged up for a while. Obviously, he's lost a step. To me, that doesn't feel like. I used to think that maybe it would be Buffalo, but they saw Damian Harris. They signed him today.
Yeah.
I don't know where it's going to be for Zeke. I don't. And if they think that he would certainly not be an apples to apples replacement for Eckler in any way. He could be, short down. He's good at a couple of things. He's good at short down. He's good out of the backfield. He's good at blitz pickup. He doesn't have the breakaway speed he used to have. Doesn't have the make you miss he used to have. But he's still a viable NFL player. Just not. It's unfortunately because of the rate he was at. It was kind of skewed it a little bit. But he's still a viable player, just in a very different role than what he's accustomed to.
He's averaged 4 yards a carry for the last 3 seasons. I mean,
Yeah.
he started off his career going 5.1, 4.7, 4.5, and then now it's 4.0, 4.2, 3.8. He did have a 4.1 in 17, but he was 4.5 and above 3 years in a row. He's been coming off of career low 3.8 on a team, mind you, where Tony Pollard was well over 5 yards a carry in the same offense. I think his goose is cooked. It's a tough position, man. It's a tough position. Pollard, by the way, last year, 5.2 yards a carry. The year before, 5.5. He averages over 5 yards a carry for his career in the same span that Zeke is basically at 4 yards a carry.
Some of that's skewed by the goal line. Like they always hammered Zeke at the goal line over and over and over. You got a lot of that.
Fine.
A lot of short yardage stuff, yeah. I'm not
Because
comparing the two. I'm just saying that he got – I want to say it was almost like a mandate from Jera. Like inside the 5, Zeke gets it. There was a lot of that.
Which is great for him, which is why he has good touchdown numbers. But,
yeah.
I mean, when you watch them, it was readily apparent
I wasn't
that they were a
comparing
more
the two.
dangerous team.
I'm not comparing the two, no.
Because they were on primetime, I don't know, every week.
Yeah.
Next up on Thing or Not a Thing this week, linebacker Bobby Wagner to the Bills. Would that be a thing or not a thing, Bishop?
I'm going to say not a thing. I don't think that – so didn't they lose –
They lost Tremaine Edmonds, so he'd be a nice compliment
Edmonds.
to Matt Milano. Yeah.
I know.
I think smoke about him going back to Seattle.
That's one that to me makes more sense. Like him going back to Seattle and, 1 year in LA, like let's go back home. I'm going back to Seattle. That seems like more of a fit to me than Buffalo.
Zagura.
I mean, Buffalo makes sense in that do they need to get, Mike linebacker to play next to Matt Milano with Tremaine Edmonds gone? He would certainly do that. They're a team with Super Bowl aspirations. If you go to Seattle, I think it's more feel good. What's the goal? What's the upside for that team? I guess they could be a playoff team, right?
Sure, they could.
They were this
they're the
year.
second best
they were
team in
this
the
year.
West. Yeah, and they got 2 first-round draft picks to add to it. Like, yeah, they're right there.
Sure.
Up next on Thing or Not a Thing, Zagura, your boy Theodore. Teddy Bridgewater to the Baltimore Ravens. Thing or not a thing?
I mean, it could be a thing as a backup or as an insurance policy, or so that they felt like they had somebody that they could play in the event that Lamar does leave. There's somebody they can play and win a few games with. I think Teddy's best days are probably behind him. I don't know really what happened with him in Miami. He was always out, it felt like, while Tua was out. I don't know. I'm not sure that Teddy Bridgewater has much of a future at this juncture anymore. He's been in the league almost, a decade, a horrific injury. We never know. It's kind of his peak was really after he led the Vikings to the playoffs early in his career was, he filled in so well for the Saints a couple of years ago that you thought, okay, maybe he's still got something, but I don't know. And I think Teddy Bridgewater, if he's going to be successful, needs to be in a dome or in very warm weather, and he get neither of those in Baltimore.
Not because he's cooked he's done. I mean, he's be a backup guy and come in spot starter. Like he's not
Clipboard
he's not
Jesus.
anybody that he's a placeholder.
No,
is what he is
right.
now.
Agreed. And I love Theodore.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Thing or not a thing, we move to free agency. The 49ers won free agency when they signed defensive tackle Javon Hargrave from the Eagles. Zagura, we'll start with you. Thing or not a thing?
If we're limiting it to just free agent signings, that probably is the biggest, right, of just a pure free agent signing. I mean, I think the Bears have set themselves up with that DJ Moore trade and everything they did with Carolina. I think they've won or put themselves in a position to really win. But for right now, from just a signing standpoint, I think that's probably the best one individual signing or in the league so far this year.
Orlando Brown to the Bengals is pretty good.
Yep.
In terms of needs. Does it change? I guess what the Hargrave thing does for the Niners is it's not only addition to them, but it's subtraction of the other best team in the NFC.
Right,
so it's
their direct
twofold.
rival.
Yeah, it's twofold for that one. So it
which is exact same as Orlando Brown, right?
Yeah,
right
that's true. That's true.
Right
yeah,
off
those
of
two
the
are
Chiefs.
those are the two to me that I look at and think those have the chance. You're getting better. Super Bowl contenders got better. Chief competitors got worse with those signings.
Yep. And then from kind of looking at it, I would say that given the way Detroit feels about themselves, and we've talked about Detroit, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson for $8 million, for whatever reason, led it to that point. Like the fact he's more than an $8 million player.
Yeah.
Without question. And I think that was a pretty good one there for – you get the NFL leaders in interceptions and a guy who is a huge difference maker for a team that you feel like you're going to have to beat to be a team of consequence in the NFC. So I think that would be another one there. And they added Cam Sutton as well to that back end of that team. They've had a very
really
good
good run,
offseason. Yeah.
Speaking of winners or losers, up next on Thing or Not a Thing, the Miami Dolphins are the most improved team in the National Football League after 1 week of free agency. Bishop, thing or not a thing?
Not a true thing. I think you mentioned Detroit. Another one that I would say is Chicago. I mean,
Yeah.
Chicago went from. I mean, they've always had the assets, but then they weaponized the assets in a way that was really quite incredible with what they've done. I mean, they can be a legitimate offense next year because of what's happened this offseason.
So other than acquiring Jalen Ramsey, is there a big Dolphins move that I'm not quite aware of?
Stand by.
I don't think so, right?
I think it's just Ramsey.
By the way, from Adam Schefter, not Browns, but kind of Browns, D. Ernest Johnson, 1-year deal with the Jacksonville Jaguars. So you've got
He'll
the
do well there.
Browns.
I'm happy for him. He'll do very well there.
I love him. Yes.
Yeah.
Is that a homecoming for him?
Well, he was down in Florida for sure. Yeah. I thought he was more Tampa area. I thought, but.
Best of luck to him. I love Dearness Johnson. Incredible story from working on fishing boats down in the Keys to basically forcing his way into I think it was the USFL or the American Alliance, AAF, Alliance of American Football. He said, forced his way into there and then got to the Browns. You know, you'll never forget FedEx Ground Player of the Week, 140 yards on that Thursday night a couple of years ago against the Broncos when you needed it. Showed how he could, in that season, got 100 carries, ran for over 500 yards, 3 touchdowns. I think he could be very, very good, and he's somebody that gives them, I think, kind of a between-the-tackles compliment to Etienne, and if Etienne were to miss any time, he's going to give them more than what I think James Robinson was able to give them last year, and that was substantial. I mean, they're turning it over to Etienne as they should, but Dearness Johnson, I think, has an opportunity, like in fantasy. If you have Etienne on your team, you're going to want Dearness Johnson because I think that he's, one play away from being a very productive guy in this league.
I also think he'll be better than they realize almost.
Yes.
By the way, the Dolphins' other big signings, Braxton Berrios, wide receiver.
Are you in his family? I feel like that's the only way that Braxton Berrios and big signing would be in the same sentence.
There you go. Raheem Mostert's back. Jeff Wilson's back.
Yeah.
But that's back, so not improvements.
So basically, it's the Ramsey
They
thing.
signed Mike White.
No, it's Ramsey's it.
They signed him.
Braxton Berrios.
Mike White. Mike White
Cannot be your
could play
example.
meaningful snaps for that football team.
I don't think.
I don't know if you're excited about that.
That would be a disaster.
I don't think you're
case.
excited about it at all. But I picked a team, and I said, thing or not a thing. Well, throw it up against the wall, kids. It's March 20th.
I like it. Good job, Yubba.
Up next, Aaron Rodgers is still one of the top 5 QBs in the NFL. Thing or not a thing, Bishop?
No. Nope. Not. Untrue.
5?
Thing.
5. Who are the 5 in front?
Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Herbert.
Yeah. I mean, I think Trevor Lawrence. I'm telling you,
And
the way
then-
that he played down the stretch, you could take Trevor Lawrence there.
I would rather have Lawrence.
I'd rather have
based
our
on
guy. I know people
situation,
say I'm
like-
nuts, but I would.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have him just outside of that, somewhere between 6 and 10.
He's still in the top quartile. He's in the top 8, and of course he can win you a Super Bowl. Did his play decline last year some? Absolutely. Did he struggle a little bit on the deep ball relative to years past? Absolutely. Could it have been disinterest? Could it have been lack of chemistry? Perhaps. But everybody declines. Brady declined last year. I mean, Brady was on a team with Mike Evans and Godwin, and they were the worst team in the NFL on 3rd and 10 or longer. And that's Tom Brady. It happens.
I had one
Ayahuasca.
more, but I believe that this is an old take now, given what's happened in the last 20 minutes.
What?
Yeah.
The Browns in free agency, thing or not a thing, outside of wide receiver, the second biggest need now for the Browns is that linebacker. Thing or not?
Not now.
Not now.
No.
That's what I mean.
No.
20 minutes ago,
And
maybe.
still not a
irrelevant.
thing. Still not a thing. Still not a thing.
Yeah.
What would be number 2?
It's D-line and receiver. So if you're saying receiver is not an option, D-line.
All right, pick one. Tackle or end?
And
And I'll take tackle just so that we have diversity to answer in the sense that, we really don't know who's starting next to Dalvin Tomlinson.
Correct.
You want it to be Perrion Winfrey. Does Elliott show you something? Does Maurice Hurst, who's very productive when he's healthy, who hasn't really played in 2 years, is he healthy? Tristan Hill's a former second-round pick. Do these guys come in and do something? But, like, right now we know our guest coming up in this hour, Okoronkwo, is going to be the starter opposite Myles Garrett. And you drafted Alex Wright as a developmental guy, and you think he takes a big step forward in year 2. But
the general wasn't so sure, by the way, on Obo.
No, what did he
say? As an every down guy. Not so sure.
I think that there's going to be a rotation there, but I think he's going to be the starter, and he's certainly going to be involved in rushing the passer. I mean, Alex Wright played the run well. So if you're in an obvious running situation, maybe you'll go Alex Wright in there. But, yeah.
Thing or not a thing for both of you, is this one of the greatest tweets of all time? No names, please. I'll just read the tweet. Again, no names. We're not going to give you who the count is. Enough about me. Let's talk about you, my followers, for a moment. What do you most admire about me?
I guarantee I know 100% whose Twitter handle that is. And the guy is an absolute content machine. He's unbelievable.
Just an unbelievable human.
He's so good.
Oh, my God.
He's my favorite follow on Twitter. And know that I take it all in jest, everybody.
He's so much fun.
Follow on Twitter.
No names, please. But just so good.
He's my favorite follow on Twitter. He's
so good.
Every day.
Obo will join us at 2:15. We have that to look forward to, which is very nice. Second hour of the program coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Ballybet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. Our new defensive end, Obo Okunrankwo, will join us here momentarily, I would say, in the next 15 minutes or so. He will make his CBD debut, so you have that to look forward to, which is very nice between now and then. This from CBS Sports, top 10 off-season moves. Can I just say one thing right away before we even get into this, Gibby? This
Please.
list from a Cody Benjamin. Like, number one is not done.
Number
I know.
one's not done. No, number one is not done.
So
and
why do people keep doing this?
This list is pretty awful, and I figured there is no better time to pick it apart than on this show.
First of all,
right now.
and Hargrave's not on the list.
Correct.
Javon Hargrave's signing isn't even on the list. And Aaron Rodgers number one, which hasn't even happened, other than that he said that's what he wants to have happen on Pat McAfee and basically beg the Packers to do the right thing and let him get traded.
Yeah, so this is top 10 moves. Like, they have coach hirings in here, free agency stuff, trades. Like, it is a stunning miss. And sometimes these can be really far off. This one doesn't make any sense.
I don't get it,
Jimmy,
man.
People, it's content. It's a slow content time, which we
You're
all
right.
know, and he's trying to generate content, and this is pretty wild to me. Vic Fangio, I'm fine with that being on the list. Bradbury, Orlando Brown should be much higher than number 9. No mention of Javon Hargrave, which is insane to me. And the Bears trade is number 3. It maybe should be number 1 for considering everything that the Bears got, including DJ Moore.
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty wild. All the way across the board.
Cam Sutton, number 2? I mean,
Yeah, that's. I mean, where do they? So you have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at 5. You've got Cam Sutton at 2 on this. I got to tell you, like some of these, I got no problem with CBS. I was a big fan of Dallas as a kid, the Dukes of Hazzard. Big fan of CBS. But it feels like anytime we do anything from their NFL guys, it's nuts.
I looked at it. I'm like, well, good news. Guess what we're going to talk about today? The big misses. Like, he's got the Bears acquiring DJ Moore, and I understand that side of it. But how do you not have the Carolina side in the top 10, acquiring the number 1 pick?
they give up a lot for it. I mean,
But, like,
you don't know how it's going to work out. I would just say that I'd rather be Chicago in that deal. You know,
but
you get
is that
Both of them are franchise-changing decisions, though, on both
No doubt.
sides. I mean,
Correct.
it's the
should both be in the
trajectory
top
of
10.
the trajectory of both of those franchises will be determined on that trade. Either
Yep.
what the Bears do with the assets accumulated from Carolina, if they use them wisely, and honestly, their bet on Justin Fields, because that's got to pay off too, right? They have to land the plane on Fields. They have to make sure they were right on that, and that C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young isn't that dude. If those two guys aren't that dude, then the Bears win this as big as ever. For Carolina, David Tepper had tried for years to land a quarterback. I mean, they were, for 2 years, 2 off seasons, they were in on Deshaun Watson. 2 separate years, and couldn't pull it off, and could not get the quarterback that he wanted. He tried every means. Anytime there was a whisper of a quarterback on the market, Tepper was on it, and couldn't get it done. And he said, I've had enough, man. Go to one, pick the guy you want. Let's figure out who this is. Let's go get the franchise quarterback. We haven't had one in a minute. So that's the most consequential thing to this point that's happened in this offseason. The two that would trump that will be whatever happens in Baltimore, and then the Rodgers thing to a lesser extent, just because the Rodgers thing, it won't be, in my view, the Rodgers thing is at best going to be like a Brady situation at best. And I understand I'm not talking about the Super Bowl. I'm talking about 3 years.
Yeah.
Like it's a 3-year window for him with the Jets if he goes there. To me, that feels like the extent of it. And I don't think even with him they're a Super Bowl team because of how brutal the AFC is.
They have a chance to be in the dance, right? I mean, I think that you could get into an AFC playoff situation where you could say legitimately all 7 teams could come out of the conference.
I think you will.
I think it's likely, yeah.
I mean,
I don't think there's any team that we could say is definitively going to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. You'd have to say somebody's going to have to beat Mahomes, right? I mean,
you're going to have to.
And I realized 2 years ago the Bengals did it, but that's the team that's been there in the AFC Championship game every single year. They've gone to 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, I mean, just do it. Pretend the Jets make the playoffs, that they're one of the 7, and the other 6 are Chiefs, Bills, Chargers, Bengals, Jaguars, us, Jets. Every one of those teams would say, yeah, we can win it. By the way, you're not putting in Baltimore with Lamar. You're not putting in Miami, who was really good with Tua.
Or Denver with
Russ.
Or
Denver with Russ, resuscitated.
A resuscitated Russ with Sean Payton. Is that 7 teams?
That we just named a total of – I named 6. We added 3 more after that. So that's a total of 10 teams in the AFC. Like the ones that would be – would it be surprising if Russell Wilson won the Super Bowl in Denver based on what we saw last year? A little bit, but it's not an impossible thing for me to see with Sean Payton and the success that he's had. And Wilson's not that far removed from playing at a high level. I mean, I guess like teams. The idea that I think it would be shocking for most people outside of here for us to do it.
Of course.
The Dolphins with Tua, probably a little. And I guess Jacksonville, just because usually you usually don't go from – kind of in to like winning it, but I wouldn't be shocked.
No, but there are 3 teams in the AFC East that absolutely think that they can do it, with the exclusion being the Patriots. There's the Jags in the South, that's 4. There are probably 3 teams in the AFC West that really believe they can. I mean, Denver with Sean Payton and Russell Wilson have to believe they can do it. That's 7, and I would say you would say probably 3 teams in our division, if Lamar is back with the Ravens, believe they can do it.
Pittsburgh might believe they can do it too because they made the postseason.
Which is insane.
Yeah, certainly. All right, Obo Okoronkwo. Oh, is he going to join us right now? Oh, Obo could be joining us right now.
I believe he is calling in right now. So
all right,
we'll just stand by.
Very good. Excited. Very excited to see this. Are we official on the jersey on this? We'll have to ask him. If we're officially 007.
Yeah.
That'd be very good. All right, Paulus is working it out. He's calling in on the hotline right now. The Twisted Tea hotline brought to you by Twisted Tea Hard Iced Tea.
Got him now.
Official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. On the other end of the hotline, Obo Okoronkwo joining us. Obo, thank you so much for taking the time. Congratulations. Welcome to Cleveland, my man. You just had your press conference. I suppose that now, by this point at least, it's very much sinking in that this is all now official. Welcome to Cleveland, buddy.
Thank you so much. Thank y'all for having me. I'm really excited to be a part of the Dog Pound.
How did this process work for you? How did you land on Cleveland being the destination?
I guess when free agency opened, they showed a lot of interest. They told me what their plan was for me, and it just made sense for me. I love playing for the Texans. I met a lot of great people. I got a lot of great opportunity there, but I couldn't pass up playing with one of the best players in the league. I felt like that was just so much opportunity to play on the other side of him. That's like the most coveted spot for an edge rusher in the league. So I couldn't pass on that. And then with all the other great players on the roster, I saw opportunity to compete in the playoffs and ultimately win a Super Bowl. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Obo, when you were thinking of making the decision to come to Cleveland, you said it was a no-brainer. You had a lot of former Cleveland Browns on that team in the Texans. One guy that we loved, Christian Kirksey, was one of the leaders on your defense. Did you ever chat with him and say, hey, what was it like in Cleveland? Is that or something that he ever talked about, what it was like to play in Cleveland?
Yeah, definitely. He talked about how crazy the fan base was. He said that was one thing that he missed about Cleveland, that the fans were just like so into it, and they stood by the team.
So, Obo, we've seen pictures or jersey swaps or rumors that maybe you're going to be wearing number 7, and I was just wondering, number one, if that's true. Do you like 007? I feel like that'd be a good nickname for you. So, is it true? Are you going to be wearing 7?
I love the nickname, but I guess we'll all see, huh? In a couple of days.
Okay.
We'll all see.
All right, very good. Yeah, that feels like a no-brainer. I heard you in your press conference with the local media that somebody asked, what changed for you? You said opportunity. Opportunity changed for me. When you were in the middle of that run that you had in Houston last year, where you started to get that opportunity, how much validation was that for you in terms of what you believed you were capable of showing up on tape and in games?
It wasn't really any validation for me, honestly. I still felt like I wasn't doing enough. I still felt like I hadn't scratched. I've only scratched my full potential. feel like you get better every game. No, I know I do, and I felt like you know, the more I play, the better I get, the more productive I'll be. So like, yeah, the opportunity was there, and I played better when I got more snaps. But I still feel like I left a lot out there. So I'm looking forward to this year playing the best ball I've played yet.
You finally get to start 5 sacks in those final 6 games to wrap up the season. And now, you know, the Browns, and I've talked to people here, and I know that you have as well, and they view you as a 3-down player, a guy who can come in and start. How exciting is that for you as somebody who's been a part of, you know, great defenses, certainly with the Rams, and then now an opportunity to come in and be a starter with a team like the Cleveland Browns?
Yeah, no, I'm super excited. You know, I'm just excited to be in that stadium, just to get my first sack. You know, celebrate with my teammates. I'm super excited. You know, when I signed, I reached out to a couple of my teammates that I already knew, my new teammates that I already knew, and we're all just excited to just get going.
Who are some of those guys that you already knew that you were excited to get to work with?
Oh, okay, I know D Watt. I reached out to D Watt. We already were pretty familiar with each other. I reached out to John Kelly. Jeremiah, reached out to Perrion. You know, he went to OU. He's an OU guy as well as Isaiah. Jacob, I had him on his visit to OU. He ended up going to LSU.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, wow.
I'm pretty familiar with a lot of guys on the roster. Just you know, football's a fraternity. We've ran into each other at just different points in our careers. So I'm pretty familiar with the team.
That's awesome.
That's really amazing. Yeah, you forget. Yeah. I guess we think once you get to the league, you know the guys who play in your team, but that you forget this goes back to college. You play at a place like OU, you're going to run in the circles with a lot of great players. What were some of those? What was those conversations with Perrion and Jake? My gosh, you hosted Jacob Phillips on his visit to OU?
Yeah, I did.
That's
and so, yeah, I did. He told me he was coming, and he ended up going to LSU. So I still got to give him some crap about that.
How did you? I mean, it feels like he tells you he's coming, then he goes tell. You still got a little beef there? I would think, right? Like, come on, man.
Yeah, there's definitely a little beef. I think he'll for dinner when I get to Cleveland.
You mentioned off the top the ability to play on the same defensive line as Myles Garrett. So it was something that was very, very appealing to you. Well, I can tell you for those of us up here, we have been looking for someone to consistently play next to Myles for a very long time at a high level. It's something the organization's been looking for as well. Do you feel like you can fill that role?
100%. I feel like it's going to be a really good year off the edge for Cleveland.
When you talked to Jim Schwartz, what was kind of the sense you got of the role you're going to have in this defense? And you mentioned coming off the edge and getting to attack, right?
Yeah, he wants me to be as disruptive as possible. He wants me to get off the rock. He wants me to line up wide and get off the rock, and that's what I do really well.
So when you look at it, you come off one side, Myles coming off the other, and I know you said earlier today that you watched some Dalvin Tomlinson tape. He pushes that pocket. When you're an edge rusher and you have a guy up front who kind of pushes that pocket and eliminates the quarterback's ability to step up, how does that help you? How does that change your game plan, and how does that help you and Myles have those meetings at the quarterback that we all love to see?
It just allows us to rush like higher. You know, you don't have to cut it off so shallow. You know, when you can do that, it gives you more opportunity to bend at the top and finish with those strip sacks that you want. You know, those strip sacks come when that quarterback is floating. He's floating and floating because he can't step up. So just having a big, strong body like that pushing the pocket is gonna be great for me and Myles.
Yeah, well, we're excited to have you here. I know one thing that
Yes.
Z always likes to ask, and I'll let him do it right now anytime we get a first chance to talk to a guy. Go ahead, buddy.
Yes, and that is, when you go out there, obviously in football, you're in a helmet, right? And it's hard sometimes to get to know people. What's something that you want Browns fans to know about you when they look down and they see, hopefully, Agent 007 out there getting after quarterback? What's something that you want Browns fans to know about you?
Not much. I think they'll learn, but I'm pure energy. When I get set, like I might be calm now, but when I step out on the field, I'm a different guy, you know. I love the game, and you'll see it. You'll see it immediately.
Well, welcome to town, man.
Awesome.
Thank you so
Yes.
much for taking the time. Can't wait to see you out there. Look forward to that jersey reveal somewhere in the coming days. Thanks for joining us today, bud.
Thank y'all for having me.
Very good. That's your new defensive end, Obo Okunrankwo, joining us, making his debut via the Twisted Tea hotline, brought to you by Twisted Tea, Hard Iced Tea, official sponsor of your Cleveland Browns. Keep it twisted, Cleveland. We actually do have a lot more to come, including some reactions to that conversation with Obo coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily, brought to you by Bally Bet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Renew your home for the last time with Renew Home Exteriors, siding and roofing products. Don't spend all day with high-pressure sales guys. The team at Renew Home Exteriors won't waste your day with hours of negotiating the price at your project. Just an upfront, fair price to make your job and your project easy. Modernize your home with premium siding, ranging in every style and color. Renew Home Exteriors, superior product, superior service. Visit RenewEstimate.com for more on that. Nice to have Obo on there. Good to have him in town and part of it. Yeah, we had the general on yesterday and was saying pass rush specialist. But look, with great opportunity comes great responsibility, and Obo feels like he's ready for the challenge. There's certainly stuff on tape to lead you to believe that he's going to be able to do that. He's a little bit lighter than which is probably where the general John McClain comes to the end that he comes to get to. But I also think that let's see what happens when all this gets put together and how it all fits into a Jim Schwartz defense.
Well, yeah, you remember he was drafted by the Rams as a kind of a stand-up outside linebacker to rush the passer, and then last year with the Texans in a four-man front, he got to play some defensive end. The Browns think he's a better run defender than I think an average person gives him credit for. We'll see how much they utilize him in that role, but he was brought here to do mainly one thing, and that's rush the quarterback. And since Myles Garrett's been here, we've never had that guy with him go for 10 sacks. Clowney got to 9 2 years ago. But and a lot of that was kind of, you had 2 in the final game, a late season flurry. But we've never had that guy that was consistently getting to the quarterback opposite Myles Garrett, and that's exactly what Obo Okoronkwo was brought here to do. And so hopefully that's what he can do. I think in tandem with Alex Wright, who's a much bigger end, and they've always thought that he could be kind of that big run-stopping end opposite Myles Garrett, that I think you have a very good tandem and what amounts to a very complete player. Wright struggled last year to rush the quarterback, but was very good, as I said, against the run. So I think you kind of have both of those things. I think ultimately you want him fresh for those money downs to get after the quarterback, right, with Okoronkwo. And can you do that by playing all the time? Maybe. We'll see. But I think that really what you're looking for is this guy to get after the quarterback, give you double-digit sacks opposite Myles Garrett, give you some pressures, and then I think the Browns are going to be obviously in very, very good shape. I do want to say, though, as we were going to break, or coming out of that break, it felt like Gibbe was just screaming into a void, and I felt bad for him with so much yelling and no audience. It must have been sad.
It was a bit of a closet yelling, yeah. I mean, that's sometimes that did happen a little bit. I noticed that as well. Yeah.
I come up with an idea, and everybody goes, nah.
I didn't hear the idea, to be fair. I didn't hear the idea.
I know Zagura did, because he was he looked at me with all his bug eyes and was like, you don't want to go do. I'm like, okay, fine. You do what you want to do. We got 30 minutes left. Figure it out. Let me know what you want to do here with the show.
Just gave you a meat sandwich right there, talking about a guy in Okoronkwo who was in the top 13 in pass rush productivity, 5 sacks in his final 6 games. Gibbe, and a great compliment there. And then Alex Wright, while he didn't necessarily get to the quarterback, played the run well, and also led the team on the defensive line with 5 passes defensed last year. So I think together you have everything you need. It's in 2 bodies rather than 1. But I think that the Browns are going to be able to get the most out of that. And listening to Obo talk to us, I think he's pretty excited about the opportunity to be the guy and the opportunity to prove, naysayers wrong. And I don't think the general is a naysayer at all, but look, you get paid in this league to be a defensive end who can get after the quarterback, and those are the ones that are considered the game wreckers, much more so than, oh, man, this defensive end's great against the run. Okay, that's nice. That gives you a role on an NFL team, but that's not somebody that's going to really be impacting the outcome of games in money situations, because let's face it, money downs in the National Football League are typically third down passing situations.
Here, this is where I am with this. You tell me if this is overreaching, but I'm kind of this is where I am with a defensive line. You need either Alex Wright, Perrion Winfrey, or Jordan Elliott to be a big pro, like a dude. Don't have to be an all-pro. Don't have to be a Pro Bowler. I think that would be a wild stretch for any of them. But you need one of those 3 guys to be a legitimate issue on the defensive line, to be a pro defensive lineman. One of those 3 guys has got to go. Perrion's got the highest ceiling from my vantage point, and he feels like he's the closest. But if one of those 3 doesn't do that, then you're going to have some issues based on where we are now. Either that or you're banking on a rookie.
And I got some breaking news for you that I can confirm. Mecole Hardman is signing with the Jets. Mecole Hardman to the Jets, and that is, I can confirm that report.
Yeah, Jeremy Fowler originally.
He's going to the Jets. So that means one of...
How many receivers are the Jets going to have?
Corey Davis or Elijah Moore are not going to be on the Jets next year. So that is those are other possibilities for the Cleveland Browns to bring into their wide receiver room. Elijah Moore's a guy that they liked quite a bit.
Did you see the Fowler tweet, by the way? Judy. So the tweet reads, this is the tweet from Fowler. Source, Mecole Hardman has agreed to terms with the Jets on a 1-year deal, more speed for Cleveland's offense. That's the tweet.
I just read that.
His tweet reads, Mecole Hardman has agreed to terms with the Jets on a 1-year deal, more speed for Cleveland's offense.
Well, I guess
so. It leads you to believe that it was right down
to it, huh?
Right? Like it could have
He
gone either
changed
way.
it. He edited it. It now says New York's offense. Yes, obviously, and it was. I know that the
Between
Browns
those
were
two.
the Browns were talking. I think that it came down to ultimately the Jets were willing to offer up a little bit more money for McCole Hardman than the Browns were, and that's the direction that it ended up going. So for the Browns, again, like I said, there's the Jerry Jeudy trade. Now you'd have to imagine one of Moore or Davis will not be on the Jets next year.
Yeah, they already signed Lazard last week.
Maybe both of them. So
Yeah.
they currently have Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, McCole Hardman, Elijah Moore, and Corey Davis.
And
You're
doesn't Rodgers want Randall Cobb?
He does. So my guess is both of those guys are available, and I wonder if you're the Browns, is Elijah Moore, what's his price tag relative to that of Jerry Jeudy? It's just more options for the Browns, him going to the Jets. A lot of people say, well, let's just have gotten McCole Hardman here. And I understand that. So you could end up, though, bringing in a guy like Goodwin and then also making one of these moves. But I know Elijah Moore was highly regarded in this building, and I loved him coming out of Ole Miss. I think he could be a very productive player with a fresh start. And then you've got, Corey Davis, former first-round pick, who can still run and play and win on the outside for you.
Brad Spielberger of PFF with this. Got to wonder if Elijah Moore's trade request may be granted after all. So, yeah, would feel like
it would have to be. Yeah, it's got to.
Can't have 75 receivers.
And perhaps this was, I don't know how transparent the things were, but perhaps this was something where the Browns knew that it was them and the Jets, and if he went with the Jets, that there would be a different opportunity available, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. I mean, to me, yeah, it seems like it. But that's, so now in terms of, from a true free agent standpoint, it's pretty much dried up. It's going to have to be via trade, and we know that they were in on Jeudy. It would have to be via trade or via draft in order to acquire a guy who checks all the boxes. McCole Hardman was kind of the last one out there that checked them all, wasn't he?
He checked, yes. Again,
he
not
checked the one we
receiver,
talk about the most.
Checked the one we talked about the most. I think Elijah Moore is a considerably better overall wide receiver and has some of that juice that you're looking for.
But he's not a free agent, is what I'm saying.
But he's
available.
Gonna be available. Correct.
Yeah, he'll be available, but he's not a free agent.
Yeah.
So in terms of now you're at the mercy of other teams and then bidding wars and that type of stuff.
For sure.
What about your guy
just
DJ
out
Chark? He's out there.
No, he's not. Is he? Didn't he
I
sign?
thought he was going to Carolina.
Yeah,
I don't
thought
know if
he signed.
did.
I thought he maybe I could be wrong, but I thought he signed.
Stand by.
I could be wrong, but I thought he signed somewhere.
Still interested. Lions and Panthers, but not official yet.
So this is, I think, if the people out there who were set on getting McCole Hardman, and for that not to have worked out, and I would have certainly welcomed McCole Hardman to the Cleveland Browns. He wanted to come here. I know that. I would say to you that him going to the Jets of all the possible scenarios, if you're looking at through Browns lenses, is probably as good as it can be in the sense that it's going to make other people who would be desirable to the Browns available. It's not like he's just going somewhere and that is just a void in the wide receiver market. He's going somewhere which necessitates by him going there, they are going to have. And with Lazard also going there will be wide receivers available.
Yeah, there have to be. They can't.
Yeah, they can't do it all.
Can't possibly.
You can't keep all the receivers for yourself.
No, got a lot of them there, man. So
maybe they listen to us.
What else
Weapons,
is
weapons,
Rodgers
weapons,
gonna
weapons,
want?
weapons.
you want all. You got to get them, man. That's it. That's the whole operation. That's where you stand at this point. All right, couple of observations from last night in sports we wanted to get to. Also, a couple of observations from Ohio State's Pro Day. There seems to be at least two certainties coming out of that. We'll get to all of that coming up next. You'll listen to Cleveland Browns, brought to you by Ballybet, coming soon to Ohio on 850 ESPN Cleveland. For a team of Inju lawyers dedicated to every client every day, call 1-800-ELK-OHIO. Elk and Elk's proud partner of your Cleveland Browns. This from Ohio State Pro Day, to the surprise of no one, Albert Breer on some early reaction from NFL coaches and personnel guys on Marvin Harrison Jr., the sophomore rising junior at Ohio State. Quote, incredible, really impressive, unfortunately not draft eligible. He looked like a dude, LOL. So, yeah, he is who you think he is, that kid.
I feel like you must have sent that he looked like a dude one. I feel like that's right out of your
does feel like one
vernacular.
Either that or perhaps, people.
He's a dude.
People who I've, done things with previously in this medium, feels like that could have come out of their mouth as well, just as
a dude.
Being in a perimeter of my vernacular. Yeah, does feel like it. He is. Yeah, he's going to be great. The other thing that came out of it that I thought was pretty funny was did you see – you guys know Josh McCown obviously well from his time here. Did you see his interaction with C.J. Stroud?
Yeah, I watched a quick little video of it. I don't know what to really make of it. I love Josh McCown.
Feels like whatever the – well, I guess we got to be careful where we're doing this, but it feels like pretty strong leaning that C.J. Stroud's going number 1 overall.
Yeah, you would think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was it was like an awkward moment. And like there were all these people around, and then everybody parted, and it was Frank Reich, Josh McCown, and there was
Tepper.
someone else there from Carolina.
Tepper's in the blue long sleeve with big embrace. Tepper's there.
Yeah, like I feel like
he's going to be such a good quarterback coach too. It's so funny. We were hoping to do some things with him with the Browns, from like film standpoint, 'cause he was doing that last year. And he's like, well, let me see. I may have some things, in the hopper. Now he's a quarterback coach for the Panthers.
Well, wasn't he coaching high school football or something like that?
High school, right? But that wouldn't have precluded him from doing anything with the Browns. This certainly does.
Yeah, certainly. One other thing, non-football, World Baseball Classic final was last night. I did not watch it. I saw the stuff this morning from it. I know some people were excited about it. I'm very curious to see what the ratings were for it, but it feels like a win. It feels like people excited about baseball in March, which anything that is a win. Let me just pose this to you. Is, from a non-baseball diehard fan, which I used to be, am no longer.
Same.
For those of us just have a general knowledge of the sport and a following of it, is Shohei Ohtani undervalued, underappreciated? Because it feels like to me he might be.
3 things, and the third will be answering the question you just asked.
Go.
1, I have seen reports that they believe that last night will be the most watched baseball game of all time.
Oh, worldwide for sure, but not in America.
Because of the Japanese audience. But they think that will be the most.
They had 93% of the televisions in Japan were watching the semifinal.
Correct.
93% of the TVs were watching the semifinal. So, yes, that's a lock, I think, for what you just said.
So, all right. So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
2, I felt like in the little bit that I watched, which was highlight driven, this mattered more to everybody on the field, I felt like, than any World Series that I've seen in a long time. Like in terms of just the stakes, the passion, the emotion, the caring, the commitment, all of it.
Yep.
And then 3, Shohei Ohtani would be one of the best hitters and position players, and then he also can pitch. He just struck out Mike Trout. Mike Trout had struck out swinging on 3 swings, 3 swing and misses in 1 at bat. I think 24 times in over 6,000 plate appearances. That would have been the number 25 in his career. And Ohtani did it throwing 102-mile-an-hour gas. Like, yes, I think he is I think he's.
We don't allow our best guys to do this anymore. I was down in Tallahassee.
This is Little League.
When Buster Posey came to Florida State, he was a shortstop and a pitcher, and they turned him into a catcher because that was the fastest, best path to Major League Baseball. And by the way, it worked. I mean, he was an MVP. He won multiple World Series. He's great. But when he came in, he was the starting shortstop, and then he was the closer. And he had a hose, and they turned him into a catcher. So this is what we do. We don't allow our guys to do this. We specialize even amidst specialization, for God's sakes. We take kids who are pitching. Well, you can only be a pitcher now. You can only do this. You can only play this position. We have guys in Little League telling left-handed kids they can't play shortstop because they're lefties, and you got to go play for – like, come on, man. They're 8 years old. Let them live a little bit, for crying out loud. Like, I get it. It's more difficult, but this is what we do. Like, we do this. Meantime, this dude got to do what he was best at, which apparently is everything.
Everything, right? But that's how he is the only professional equivalent I can think of like the best kid in the Little League who is your number 3 hitter,
cleanup hitter,
plays shortstop or cleanup hitter and pitches.
Yeah, for sure. There's no question.
He's doing it in major leagues.
But we don't let our kids do it anymore. We stop them, and they didn't stop him, which is amazing.
Like he's almost he's the Bo Jackson, but just of his sport. In the fact that he can do both so
it's
well.
Really, this hasn't happened since it's 100 years. I mean, it's like Ruth since we've had anybody even attempt to do this. So and to do it on the
maybe it'll open people's eyes up. I hope it does as well.
I hope it does. I saw in Sport Track, so he's going to be a free agent. His pitcher valuation was 8 years, 280. His hitting evaluation was 10 years, 333. So, but what do you do with him if you sign him? Do you let him keep doing this? Or do you say, look, dude, we're spending $400 million on you. We'd like you just to hit or pitch. Part of the reason he picked the Angels is because they were open to letting him do both.
Let him do both for
the
love of the
both,
game,
first of all.
Save the game.
Yeah.
Second of all, do you remember when we were younger, there was an awesome baseball ad that ended in like a slow motion of, I want to say, Steve Bedrosian, Bedrock, against Mark McGwire, when Bedrosian was with the Twins as their closer, and it ended in like a slow-mo, and you never got to see it. And it was like, I think it was a tease for, I don't even know, it wouldn't have made sense in an all-star situation because they're both AL, but it was basically like teasing, the best closer against the best hitter at that time. I mean, to get Ohtani up 1 against Trout in the finals of the World Baseball Classic and to have him just mow him down like that was unbelievable. Biggest at-bat of Trout's career, which is crazy since the 2 best players in the world both play for the Angels. But it was unbelievable drama, and the jubilation for Japan was off the charts.
It was.
So I'm saying it was bigger than any World Series win.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not even close.
No.
I think that might be I'm going to say it. That might be the preeminent baseball event.
It's hard to now. I know we're up against it, but just think about this: what if we're not in it? Do you even notice? And the answer to that's probably no. If the United States doesn't get to the final, we probably don't even notice it. That is in our country. I don't think we would. So much more to come. Save it. So much more to come. We'll get your thoughts on that. Cleveland Browns Daily brought to you by Ballybet, coming soon to Iowa on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, great stuff. Interesting to see great to have Obo on the show today. Interesting next couple of days for the Browns. A lot of rumors out there at the receiver stuff. Mecole Hardman going to the Jets. We'll see where it all shakes out. Z, good job to you.
Thank you, man. What a pleasure. What a treat to be on. And keep your eyes. I think that the Browns are certainly still in the mix at the wide receiver position, and I think the Jets have become a very interesting potential partner for them.
There you go.
With the signing of Mecole Hardman.
There you go. You heard it here. Pay attention, kids. Next level coming up next. You listen to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.